Hello, I'm Diane, and today I want to talk about The Butcher of the Forest by Premee Mohamed. This is a fairly short fantasy story at under 200 pages that reads like a dark fairy tale. In this story, we follow our main character, Varys, who lives in a land that has been taken over by a foreign leader called the Tyrant. This land is surrounded by forest, the northern border surrounded by a particularly dangerous forest that is full of magic that the people here know you just don't go in it because anyone who goes in it doesn't come out. With the exception of Varys, who is the only person who has ever gone into this forest and returned. She's only ever done this once, and the reasons behind that at the beginning of the story are very mysterious. They're definitely hinted at, but we don't reveal her past until much later into the story. When we meet Varys at the beginning of the story, the plot really wastes no time kicking off. Right from the beginning, we meet her as the Tyrant's men are banging on her door of her home to bring her to him, where he tasks her with going into this forest once again to retrieve his two children who have gone missing inside of it. Varys really doesn't want to do this for some pretty obvious reasons, never mind her mysterious past. Everyone just knows you don't go in these woods because you're not going to make it out. However, the Tyrant threatens her family and her village, and she really has no choice, so she packs up what supplies she can and goes into this forest knowing that she has a very limited amount of time to have any hopes of finding the children, but also making it out of this forest. She really only has a day before it's too late. So we follow Varys as she journeys into this forest, and we discover as the reader what Varys already knows, but what a very strange and dangerous place this is. The forest very much likes tricking anyone who comes into it. It creates illusions to make things seem as if they are something else. It tries to imitate things. In way of that trickery, it also changes its path as Varys is walking. The trees are trying to block her way in certain directions, maybe direct her in other directions, and change the path behind her so that she can't find her way out again. A very bizarre place. It's also a bit unsettling because you don't really know, when we first enter the forest anyway, what the forest's intentions are, what it wants with the humans that come there, and why it wants to keep them. There are also creatures within this forest that I don't remember if they ever say what they actually are within this world, what they're called, but they're very fae-like in that they like making deals and they like playing tricks. So they will try to word their deals in a way that they get very much what they want while pulling one over on the human that they're making the deal with. They really want more out of the bargain than is actually fair, and none of them can really be trusted. So Varys has to navigate this place. We go along with her as she tries to track down the children. She does have a few magical objects of her own. The magic in this world feels very nonsensical at a lot of moments, mostly because the forest kind of bends the rules in its favor as much as it can, but there are definitely rules surrounding things. We learn a few of them as we go, as we see Varys using her own magic and making note of certain things that are happening. And it was a very strange but very interesting place to explore, and I really liked going through this journey with Varys as she's trying to find the children, and eventually, as time progresses, trying to find a way out. We do learn much more about Varys' past. She does reveal why she went into the forest the first time, and also some other things from her past. And while she does have some pretty tragic events, I didn't feel like they hit quite as hard as I had expected them to, with how much lead up there is to those reveals. However, they're definitely still very much important to who Varys is in this moment when we're seeing her and how she's reacting to the things that she's encountering here. And I was still very much invested in her as a character, even though the reveals I don't think hit as hard as I wanted them to. I was still very much invested in her and seeing her go through this place. I did think that was a very compelling story. And I also especially really loved the moral dilemma she's facing as she's searching for these children. She really hates the Tyrant, and with very good reason. He's not only invaded her land, taken over the people there, he's also responsible for her losing most of her family. And we learn a bit more about that as things go, but she's really struggling to separate these children who really are just children. They're very young. They didn't know they shouldn't go in this forest because they're not from there. The tyrant doesn't really know anything about this place that he's claimed and now inhabits. And Varys is trying very hard to separate the children from who their father is and the things he's done, where she very much views him as a monster. She knows that these children didn't make any of those decisions, didn't do any of those things. They just unfortunately are very closely linked to the man who did. And I thought that was very interesting to see her try and grapple with wanting to and needing to save these children who are innocent in the grand scheme of things, but doing it for someone who's done such horrible things. We do eventually get to see the children within the story, and I thought it was also interesting to see how they're facing the horrors they've come across, what they kind of make of this place that they've gone into accidentally and are now stuck in. And it was definitely very compelling to see them all try and find one another, find a way to work together, and hopefully find a way out of this place. It was a very strange, interesting journey to go on, and I also liked that the ending very much feels like this story was concluded. Everything within this particular story was wrapped up, but it's definitely left a bit open-ended in that there is a lot of potential for what comes next and what could possibly be another story within this world, or you can just use your imagination of what might have happened. I think it's very interesting to leave a story like that, where it feels like what was going on here, this main plot, was wrapped up, but there's definitely room for something else to have happened, another journey to begin at the end of this, and I really like that. Whether or not we get a sequel to this, I don't know if there's going to be one, but I think it is very interesting to know that not everything was neatly tied up in a bow. There's definitely potential for something to have come after this. So overall, I think my only real complaint about this is that I would have liked to see just a little bit more. I would have liked it to be a little bit longer so we could flesh a few more things out a little bit more, but also with this fairy tale feeling of a story, I think it works very well to not get too in depth to anything and just go along for this particular moment in this character's life. And in the end, I really enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun with this. I thought it was a very gripping story to go on. I thought it was a very interesting world to explore, and I had a lot of fun reading it. So I would definitely recommend this if you want a shorter fantasy read, if you like that type of fairy tale setup, and if you like a magical forest. That's something I've been really getting into the last year. If you want something a little quicker that's still very compelling and interesting, I definitely recommend checking this one out. If you have read this or you plan to, I'd love to hear what you think about it. Otherwise, that's all for me today. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.